Welcome everyone. Thank you for uh, joining me today for building and maintaining remote team culture. This is actually my first conference presentation. So thanks for being here, sharing this experience with me. I don't consider myself an expert on team culture by any means, but I have been responsible for remote team culture, since COVID. I've been in the design industry for over 20 years, so have a lot of experience with different teams, different size of companies and design teams. Everywhere from I've been a solo designer on the in-house team. Worked with medium and large size companies. So lots of experience with teams. I had lots of ideas when I wasn't responsible for culture and team building and connection. I've always, kind of been curious about it and had ideas on things that I would do. So the past couple years has been a crash course for me. So I'd like to share my experiences with you here, things that have worked well, things that we could have done differently, and yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get going. I do have a question for the chat, though. I'm curious of how many other people in the chat are directly responsible for team building and culture related events within their team. But kind of curious on that. But like I mentioned, Corey Robertson, I'm an associate UX director at CapTech Consulting. CapTech is a small size consultancy based out of Richmond, Virginia. I'm based out of the Charlotte office here in North Carolina. I'm a native North Carolinian, so I'll take you on a journey of kind of how I got to where I am now. This is a throwback picture of me from my first design job right out of college, way back in 1998. So, like I said, I've been in the design industry for a long time. Started out, as many people did, a graphic design background, graphics and web design to UI design and information architecture, UX, product design. So lots of different titles, lots of different skills have evolved through the years. Right out of college, moved to Washington D.C. metro area. Was able to work with my only other consulting experience through my career has been it was in DC area, and it was a small consultancy, and it was my introduction into web-based usability and Jacob Nielsen. So that started me on my path towards UX, user experience design, and away from kind of that combination of print graphics and web design. I've moved back to North Carolina about 15 years ago, Charlotte, North Carolina now. And, like I said, love being back in my home state. And this is my crew. That's my family. My son's in college now, daughter's in high school. But my wife's also a designer. So we're, creative family here. But yeah, like I said, I've had a full, wide ranging design career. What I did mention is like I don't have any formal, any HR. I don't know what kind of background you really need to be responsible for culture, but the way this kind of presented itself, the way this opportunity to be one of the leaders within my organization on remote team culture building started when I started with CapTech December 2019, which was about 3 months before the pandemic. Our office culture, like we came into the office every day. Right, we worked remote as needed if we had like a doctor's appointment, but we were basically in office every day, and I was able to experience that for about 3 months. And one of the highlights of our in office interactions was every Friday around at 3:30 p.m. the design team would gather in the large conference room in the back of the office. We'd pour a glass of wine or beverage of choice, and we would use that time to catch up and share and connect. And we called it wind down. So and that could be WIND or WINE, depending on your drink. But our wind downs was something we all look forward to. It was a great way to end the week on a high note with positive vibes. That was our opportunity to share project updates and give kudos to our team members. So, it was something that we that we gravitated towards and look forward to, and it was a great way to end the week. So, once the pandemic started and we were fully remote, we went from fully in office to fully remote, like most other people did rather suddenly. We tried to keep it going on a remote basis. One week, the person that was responsible for kind of gathering and facilitating and hosting this event asked me to fill in, and I had never done it before, but I was like, why not? I'll try it 1 week. But I think he knew what he was doing because he put in his notice a week later, and the wind down and hosting responsibilities became mine. So that's how I got into this role and this set of responsibilities. So now, what started as just an individual meeting that we did in office, and we tried to replicate when we were online, a it's become kind of a committee. We have a small team. It's called Fostering Connections, and our goal is to help build, communicate, and reinforce a sustainable culture in a remote environment. So as we're diving in, I'll touch on a high level, like what is team culture? Like when I'm talking team culture, so you see, mission, values, and principles. Your company's mission defines and lays out the purpose and long-term goals of a company. The values are the traits that support the mission statement. And then the principles are the standards for behavior and the mindset in the workplace. This is what I call the hows of team culture. So how we do things, how as a team do we make decisions, how do we reward and recognize each other, or how do we behave, what are our behavioral norms, how do we celebrate, victories and wins, and how we communicate with each other. So just being able to set those up and establish, what our daily actions and attitudes and behaviors are. Now that goes into collectively making up the culture of a team or an organization. Here's a few whys of why culture is important, and the thing that stands out to me for the whys is it's a differentiator. So what makes your company unique. So before I joined CapTech, I interviewed with a couple of other consultancies, and so a big reason, a big thing that pulled me in and gravitated me towards the opportunity at CapTech was the culture and the people and how they interacted with each other, and it felt like a really good fit. It was it's really important to build and maintain just a positive remote team culture. Helps reinforce your company's purpose. It defines how you do things, and it helps kind of increase the level of excitement and engagement and morale within your team. Some other benefits of strong team culture are collaboration and communication are improved. And then, believe it or not, it is increased productivity. So when people have a sense of belonging, and when they feel like they're a part of the team, and we're all working towards the same goal, it ultimately leads to a more productive environment. And now I'm onto the framework. This is when I was doing research. Like I said, I don't have a formal background in team building, but when I was starting to do research, and I was given the responsibility to plan for the next 6 to 12 months of social and team building activities. One of the resources that I used to do Doist is an app, task management app, and they have a really well thought out blog and a lot of resources with social team building activities, and they call these the three buckets. So this is the framework that I used for planning activities over the next 6 to 12 months. So we need to have, for those of us that are co-located in one of our major hubs, we have opportunities for in-person meetups. A majority of our interactions are our real-time, virtual activities. So, we have lunch and learns, and we do one-on-ones, and Our wind downs, became real time virtual activities. And then we have, asynchronous virtual socializing. So we have social channels and threads, things that are designed to spur conversations that are not work related, just ways, for us to, share interests and hobbies and get to know each other better. So this is the framework that I found really useful for planning and building out and just kind of keeping a bird's eye view of what types of activities we were planning for the purpose of team building and connection. Now, some of the challenges on a high level, the challenges that everybody faces. We're trying to make up for the limited face to face interaction in our newly remote environments. We're trying to overcome some of the difficulties in developing trust and get to know each other. And we're just looking to plan for and structure those opportunities. Some of the things that we've been working through, from a strategic level that's specific to what we've done at CapTech is, communication was obviously one of the big things that we had to tackle up front. So one of the great things about working in technology is that there's always, new apps and new ways of doing things. One of the challenges of working in technology is that there's always new apps and new ways of doing things. So at CapTech, we have a tooling team, and their role is to help keep an eye out for. They assess our current tool stack. We're Microsoft shop. We use Microsoft Teams as our chat, as our primary chat and collaboration tool, and we use as many of those Microsoft tools as possible from a design perspective. We're Figma. We use Figma primarily, and now FigJam has come a long way. So that's our virtual whiteboarding app. So I guess my first question for the group is, uh, what is everyone's team's primary chat-based collaboration tool? Let's say at CapTech, we're Microsoft. We use Teams. My previous role, we were Slack. I was like really comfortable with Slack before. Kind of missed some of the things about Slack, but I am curious to see if Teams has become I guess one of the more of a leader in the chat-based collaboration. So, but yeah, I'm always looking for upcoming new features, just trying to maximize and get the best out of Teams. I know a lot of people complain about whatever their platforms are, but it's up to you to dig into the features and understand the limitations as well as some of the things that are available that you may not have taken advantage of. We The next bullet was being brief but clear. Brevity is something that I'm good at, almost too, maybe a little bit too much. So we're always trying to balance how much text, how much discrete, how much information we want to share for a given interaction. We're always kind of revisiting the proper format. Is it an email? Is it a chat? Is it a video call? So and to the last point, communication preferences, determining the individual communication preferences of your teammates. Everybody has their own style of communicating remotely. Some prefer, like brief. Some prefer really detailed responses. Some people are more formal than others. So, we've done some things. We've done some activities to, work, and I'll mention later that we work towards getting a better understanding of our teammates' individual communication preferences, and that goes a long way into helping us uh, refine and maximize how we interact with each other. Building community. I say that's one of the main goals of what we're trying to do here. But being intentional about how we come together and the purpose for connection, celebrating our wins, celebrating our similarities and our differences. The lack of sense of community and limited bonding experiences is something that all remote and hybrid companies are working to overcome. So, one thing that we've done as far as being intentional is making sure that we build in time, kind of at least on a weekly basis to come together as a team. But time for socialization, virtual happy hours or coffee hours, there's other ways and means of coming together, but being intentional about scheduling socialization time in a remote environment has been really important for community building. So like I said, we schedule our activities. One thing that I've been trying to tweak or trying to pay attention to based on feedback is the cadence and frequency of some of the social activities. Because when you are remote, sometimes even the fun activities can seem like just another meeting. So we've been tweaking our cadence. At one point, we were doing our wind down meetings twice a month, and this year we're experimenting with every 3 weeks. Twice a month seem to be with client schedules, with us being in consulting, and kind of all having different calendars. The twice a month seem to be a little bit much, so I'm doing every 3 weeks right now. And I'm going to get feedback in another month or so, and see how that's resonated with people. Uh, One-on-one meetings is something that we rely on a lot, and it's something that I used to suggest. So our design team at CapTech is anywhere from 55 to 65 designers at any one time, so it's a really large team. And when I was helping with onboarding, I used to suggest that everyone take the first 4 to 6 weeks of being on the team to schedule 15-minute one-on-one meetings with all 55 plus design team members. And I did that when I came on board, and I thought it went really well. But some of the feedback that I got was that's really intimidating for some people. There, some people that are really intimidated by the thought of having a 15-minute conversation with a person that's a stranger without an agenda. So we've kind of de-emphasized that a little bit, even though it's still, if you feel up to it, we'd love for you to do the one-on-ones with everybody. No pressure for everyone to do it. We can find other ways to connect. But that's an example of getting that continuous feedback, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And finally, celebrating team wins. Like with all these activities, we leave time for shout outs and ways for team members to show their appreciation for each other. That goes a long way towards building community as well. So another question that I have for the chat is if you don't mind sharing some of the community or team building activities that you've done with your teams that have worked really well. I think we're all here to get more ideas and to get more insight into how we can get better at building community and building our team. And so if people don't mind, share in the chat community and team building activities that you've done over the past year or two, in a remote or in a hybrid environment that have worked really well. I'd love to kind of pivot back and see some of those answers at the end of the presentation. A brief one that I want to touch on is proximity bias, and that's something that I kind of struggled with when we first went fully remote. And traditionally, proximity bias is something that you refer to in a hybrid environment where you tend to favor the people that you see that are there in the office or in person, and you don't pay as much attention to the people that are remote. But with us being almost all fully remote, what my version of proximity bias was, whenever we were in the meetings or whenever we were doing activities, I was more comfortable with the people that I did have some face-to-face interaction with in those first 3 months, that I joined the team before COVID. So one of the things that I've had to be more intentional about is when I'm building out agendas and when I'm planning for full team meetings and full team events, I need to make sure that I'm hearing from people that are in all of our various locations. We have two major hubs for our design team at CapTech. We have a big group in Richmond, Virginia, a big group here in Charlotte, but we also have designers in Atlanta and Denver and Texas. And so I try to be really intentional about making sure that we hear from people in all of our different locations. Celebrating our differences. So um, I've already touched on a little bit on celebrating team wins and how we can be strategic about celebrating what we have in common, but we also there's a lot of opportunity to connect and learn about each other when we look to celebrate our differences. And so we need to come into it, maintain an open-minded attitude, practice empathy towards the people, that with different personalities and, people that have different ways of doing things. Another example that I have of differences of personalities was socializing. I frequently, ask for feedback on events. And so, and I'll do anonymous forums sometimes so I can get some, anonymous feedback. So one of the pieces of anonymous feedback that I got early on, during the pandemic was once we got where we were comfortable kind of meeting up for happy hours. One of the pieces of feedback that I got was that our events were a little too alcohol centric. So we would almost always default to happy hours. So that caused me to, kind of throw in something different. And we did a hike as a team. There's a mountain that's about 45 minutes out of Charlotte that's really popular, and we got folks together to do a hike so that we could kind of mix up and just not default to the easy meet up at a brewery or have a happy hour. So that's an example of kind of listening to the feedback. Some other differences, like I said, we really lean into personalities and personality assessments at CapTech, and we do it from a fun perspective. I know there's been some controversy with some of the personality assessments that some companies use it to make hiring decisions. So that's not something that we do. We use personality assessments during our onboarding process just so we can get kind of a big picture view of the mix and the makeup of our team, like how many introverts or extroverts or, say your different person. I think we do Potter House. We do probably about 5 or 6 different personality assessments. So that's also another question I would love to have, get from the group is how many teams complete and share personality assessments as a group, just to kind of get a feel for the different personalities on the team. And along those lines, working styles, there's assessments for working styles. We haven't dug into the working styles quite as much yet, but we are working on something called personal user guide, which kind of gets into working styles. So that's an idea that I'd seen, years and years ago, and we have been kind of playing around with the idea, and now we're working to actively think through how we can create personal user guides. So an individual team member would create a short document with their working norms, like their preferred working hours or their preferred communication style, or how they receive feedback or how they give feedback. So that's something that we're trying to work on now to raise awareness of our individual team members' working styles. And then you have generational differences. That's something that I find kind of fun to research on my own. But we have 5 generations in the workforce right now. So anything from the boomers to millennials, the Gen X, Gen Z. So it's kind of interesting and fascinating to research and learn more about generational differences and to let that frame how you interact and what your perspective is on how people approach their day-to-day work. Team rituals. So, as I said, we touched on that a little bit already, but rituals are our, recurring events and activities that help us build relationships. We're paying attention to the cadence and the frequencies of events, but getting there are benefits to having a regularly scheduled sequence of rituals and events that have a specific purpose of team building and building team. So one of the Josh Levine, I read several interviews of his and some of his ideas and perspectives on team building. And one of the things that he mentions is that there are certain preconditions to successful relationship forming, and so those things are shared experiences, personal stories, openness, and establishing commonalities. And so these events, these team building events, these opportunities that we create to come together, these rituals help us to establish those commonalities. So there is a purpose to all of this. Some examples of rituals like that. We have lunch and learns, and those are really effective, and they kind of have a dual purpose. It's a really good way to get insight to as a team, as a design team, especially at CapTech. We have 50 plus designers, so we use these lunch and learns to leverage our individual team members like skills or specialties. And so someone may be a specialist in something that I'm just now starting to learn about. So lunch and learns are a way to it's work adjacent. It's not directly related to client work, but it's something it's skill based, and it's something that we can take to help make us better designers and better consultants. And it's also way an informal place to create some conversations outside of our day-to-day work. So those have worked really well. I said, we do different things for employee recognition. Like I said, almost every single get together we have, we give each other shout outs and congratulations. Share outs, very similar shout out, but share outs are our way of sharing work. Because like I said, as consultants, a lot of us are working on different projects. And it's kind of tough sometimes to get visibility into what your teammates are working on. So some of our meetings, some of the wind downs that we have, we'll do share outs and let folks share some project work and get some constructive feedback. And we also have quarterly all hands meetings. So we have one of those coming up next week. That's another one of the things that kind of fell under my responsibility as a team building ambassador within our group. And finally, I've given several examples of this already, but asking for feedback is crucial. It's like I know I'm not an expert. Most people aren't experts at this, and as a host and a facilitator, it's up to us to frequently ask for feedback, to get an idea of what's worked well, what can be improved. Our teams are constantly changing. The team makeup, the personalities, there's always kind of slight differences. This is an example of a few questions that I found that are good for asking for feedback. So I use Microsoft Forms to give people an opportunity to submit anonymous feedback. And so sometimes I'll share the link during a meeting sometimes, or right after a meeting, or I'll email it. But try to give people as many opportunities as possible to give feedback and learn ways that you can improve and do things better. So in summary, I think everyone on a certain level is responsible for contributing to your team culture. So, if you see an opportunity to make improvements or have ideas or something that hasn't been tried yet on your team, like go for it. Like take that opportunity to get something started or to help the person that is responsible for team building, like kind of help them keep the momentum going. But you don't have to just wait for it to fall into your lap like I did. There's a lot of resources online. Like I said, you don't have to look to create a proprietary magic formula for culture building and success. It's like there's a lot of resources online. I'll share some right after this that I find really useful. And then, as I mentioned in the previous slide, just constantly ask for feedback. We got some really good ideas from our feedback sessions, and we've implemented those ideas, and it helps the team. It helps with buy-in, and just giving people an opportunity to contribute to the culture. Here are a few of the blogs and sites and subscriptions that I use to kind of keep up with the latest trends and ideas and topics for team building events. I think I subscribe to probably 10 plus newsletters that they come in about once a week. But it's always good ideas, great ways to continue to try new things and to build on the momentum that we've had going over the past year or two. So thanks everyone. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone that dialed in. Please feel free to reach out and network, connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Like I said, I'm always open to network and share and to get new ideas. So I think we have a few minutes left for questions. I'm gonna stop sharing. And Allie, was there any questions that you saw that I need to?
Nope. I don't think anyone put any questions in yet. I know some people had comments on the questions that you put out during your presentation, but I can also start it off while everyone thinks of some questions. But we do have like about 10 or 15 minutes right now if we do want to use that time. But my biggest question for you, well, first of all, great presentation. I appreciated you sharing all the struggles that you had with like building your own company culture. Is there anything that you think was like the biggest hurdle for you to personally get over?
The biggest hurdle, and I see a question in the chat that's kind of just along these lines, but it was the fatigue. So when we were first, when COVID first started, and the virtual meetings were new and everyone was excited, and it was kind of really easy to throw something on the calendar, and everybody was like really excited to join. And then after that, newness wore off. Yeah, it was a bit of fatigue, and so even though it was, we were planning something that was intended to be fun and intended to kind of help build the culture and was not directly related to work, it still felt like another meeting. Like when you look on your calendar, it was just another meeting. So to address that fatigue question, that's where we've been tweaking the cadence. And like I said, I think the challenge that we have, in a consultancy versus I spent a majority of my career as an in-house designer. And so, as an in-house designer, it was a little bit easier for everyone to sync up their schedules and their calendars and block time off as a group. When you're in consulting and everyone's on a different client engagement, all of our calendars are different. All there's very few windows that you can get a majority of the team together. So yeah, what we did as far as fatigue is we bumped back the cadence a little bit because last year we had second Friday and fourth Friday was our wind down events. The second Fridays we used for team updates and our shout outs. Our fourth Fridays was more activity based, so we did trivia. We had trivia nights. We had we did all kind of games, and but yeah, it's like even though the intent was good and a lot of the events were well attended, we did get feedback that the twice a month, every other Friday was getting to be tough. So yeah, we've adjusted the cadence, we've adjusted the time. We were locked into 3:30 every other Friday, and now sometimes we'll do one at lunch just so people don't feel like they have that late day Friday meeting twice a month. So those are some of the things that we've done to combat fatigue.
Awesome. And then I see one more question in the chat here, and it is, what has been the most successful team building event online that you've done?
Our team is surprisingly competitive, so trivia. We've done several different variations and rounds of trivia. And, we even had small prizes. So I think we've done trivia 3 times in the past 2 years, like remotely. And those have been really well attended and very interactive. Like I said, people get really competitive. So that's worked really well. And then the other one we did, I can't remember the name of it. We basically did a debate. And it was like it was very informal because another lesson that I've learned is like in these activities you don't want to require people to have to do much, if any, work going into it. So sometimes there were activities that we would do sometimes where we would ask them to fill out a form or to do something before they came into the meeting, and then that seemed to be a little bit much to ask, in some instances. So we try to make sure that the activities that we do are things that can be done, you know, within the context of that meeting and doesn't require any work to be done ahead of time. So yeah, we had a little debate series and trying to think what I was. I think my debate topic was Marvel movies are overrated. So it was just fun. So it was all non-work stuff. So those have been two of our more successful events.
Awesome. Sounds super fun. All right. I don't see any other questions right now. So I think we are all good to end a little bit early. But yeah, thank you so much for your presentation, Corey. I had a great time listening.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.